everybody, and welcome to another episode of Cinema Heroes. I'm Justin Speck.
I'm Jake Stu.
And today we're talking about the movie Chronicle, released in 2012, directed by Josh Trank, written by Max Landis from a story by Josh Trank and Max Landis, and starring Dane DeHaan, Alex Russell, and Michael B. Jordan, with a couple of other actors in the mix as well, including the always great Michael Kelly. This was, like I said, released in 2012. This was Josh Trank's first film, and I don't know the budget exactly on this movie, but apparently it did really well in theaters.
The budget was $12 million.
Okay. And I
know that because I looked, I was wondering what the budget was because of like the CGI, and it was made like, I know that it was supposed to made to be look like it was like homemade and you know, like found footage, but it looked really clean, so it got me curious as to what the budget was. I was thinking like 4 or 5 million. It was $12 million. So
yeah, that's more than I thought too. I was kind of thinking around the 7 or 8 million range. But it made a lot in the theaters, which made Josh Trank a very sought after director. And then his follow up to this was Fantastic Four, which just about ruined him. Just about ruined his career.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because he there was a lot of studio interference.
Yeah, it wasn't his fault. Yeah.
Yeah, and you can tell by the reshoots, they're just scenes that do not have any kind of continuity,
right?
and the third act, it just comes like out of nowhere. So you can definitely tell that there was some external meddling on that film
for sure. It's unfortunate, really, because I think he could have made a pretty cool Fantastic Four film if they had just let him do what he was set out to do. But anyway, he
had already made it.
Well, yeah, that's true. I mean, if they had let him release it, I guess. But anyway, we'll talk about Fantastic Four in a future episode, I'm sure. But Chronicle, did you see this in the theater?
I did. Nice. I was working at the movie theater at the time, and I saw it, and I was very, very surprised at how good it was.
Yeah, I didn't see it in the theater. I don't remember why. Maybe I just didn't have the money or something. But I was working at Blockbuster at the time when it came out on physical media, and I rented it and was surprised by it. I thought it was actually pretty good. I'm not a huge fan of found footage movies, and I'm not even in this movie, not a huge fan of the found footage. There's just so many times throughout the movie where people wouldn't be filming, and they are. And one of the things that actually really bothers me about the found footage aspect is everybody gives, and granted, I know he's the kid that gets bullied and everything, but like everybody gives Dane DeHaan's character Andrew a hard time for filming. But then there's this girl character, I think her name's Casey, who films for her blog, and she's filming all the time too, and nobody says anything to her. But I guess it's because she's a cute girl, right? She's the cute blonde, right? Exactly.
Yeah.
So, but it just seemed but there's I don't want to skip ahead, but I remember one of my notes is, Andrew towards the end of the film picks up the car with Casey and what's the other guy's name? Matt in it.
Yeah.
And he pulls like Matt out of the car or something, and she's like literally in the car falling off the Space Needle. Matt flies down, catches her, gets her out of the car, and she's still filming everything. I was like, why are you still hanging on to the camera? Like, stuff like that kind of bothers me. And then there's a scene in the hospital where you hear the cop say, we got to film this for the investigation or something. And I was like, you have to film and
I'm so glad you brought that up, because that didn't make any sense. I'm like, why would you need to film the inside of the hospital room like that?
And he's unconscious. You have to film an unconscious patient for your investigation. I was like, that's stupid. So there's times where I really kind of wish this movie wasn't found footage and it just was told like a straight movie, but whatever. I don't think the found footage element adds anything to it, really, in my opinion.
Yes and no. A found footage movie that is kind of like that doesn't do those like little mistakes, as far as I know, is Cloverfield.
Right. Cloverfield does a pretty good job. Yeah.
Cloverfield is in my opinion one of the best found footage movies.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree with that. The Trip. Did you ever see that? The M. Night Shyamalan movie with the two kids where they go visit the grandparents?
Oh, The Visit?
Oh, that's what it's called? Yeah, The Visit. Not The Trip, I guess. The Visit.
I did see. I really like that movie.
I like that movie too. That movie was actually pretty good. I don't remember feeling that way with that movie because he's such a younger kid. It's like it almost is more believable that he'd film everything. Yeah. But I remember I didn't have as much of an issue with it this time around, but I remember the first time I watched the movie when Matt comes to Casey's door and she's like, "Do you mind if I film this?" And the camera's kind of set up behind her. I just was like, do you just have the camera pointed at the door like all the time? It just like kind of bugged me. It was just, I don't know. It
takes you out of it.
Yeah.
It's not believable.
Every time there was an explanation for a camera being run or like at first it's not that big of a deal because they're all like, he says he bought the camera, he's going to start filming everything. So I understand the friends being like, what's with the camera? Like that didn't take me out of it. But like the whole thing with the cop saying we have to record for the investigation. Sometimes when she's shooting other stuff like that, it just takes you out of the movie because
I don't understand
it's
why.
Not logical.
Like it, right. I just don't understand like why in that scene she couldn't just hold the camera.
Right.
Like it would have made perfect sense.
I will say it was kind of cool once, he's starting to develop his powers, how he can like have the camera be behind him or come around him and stuff while he's, he's like having the camera hover. That was kind of cool. But
that makes sense. That's logical within the
context of exactly.
The context. Yeah.
And then towards the end of the film, it's like there's so many different camera angles and everything. It's like I understand some of it's supposed to be like cop dash cams, but like and other stuff I guess is supposed to be cell phone footage from just bystanders and stuff. But I mean,
how do they get those shots that are like
in the sky and stuff? Right. Exactly.
How do they do that? Like, come on now.
And I know there's a scene where Andrew's outside of, I think it's the Sky Needle, and he like pulls everybody's iPads and cameras and stuff and phones out of the building towards him. So I was like, is he just keeping those levitated around him at all times, like just filming? It made no sense.
Or there was another kid that got powers and he's just flying around with a cell phone.
That's right. He's the
like, I got this power, catch me.
That's pretty good. It's pretty good. So yeah, I found footage wise, I'm kind of glad found footage is kind of died out. I don't even remember, like The Visit's probably the last one I saw. I don't know. What's the last found footage movie you saw? Do you know? Can you think of it?
The last one that I saw,
or the most recent?
Maybe probably The Visit.
Yeah.
I know for a fact that there have been found footage movies released after that, but really? I can't think of them right now.
I can't either.
Because unfortunately, they're still making Paranormal Activity movies. Right.
First one was good. Don't need any more after that.
I like the third one. I could deal with the first one and the third one. All the rest of them.
I don't know if I ever saw the third one.
It's a prequel.
Oh, okay.
The sisters are little girls.
Oh, you know what? Maybe I did see that one.
Yeah.
That sounds familiar. Anyway, so yeah, this was Dane DeHaan. I think this was probably the first Dane DeHaan movie I ever saw.
Me too.
I don't think this was the first Michael B. Jordan. I feel like I saw him in something else before this, but it might have been like the first movie where I really kind of took note of him and who he was type of thing, Because I know he's been around for a little while. He was like on The Wire and stuff when he was younger.
He's been acting since he was a kid. First thing I saw him in was Hardball.
Oh, yeah. I saw Hardball.
Keanu Reeves.
Yep.
Yeah. Which is a fantastic movie.
That is a great movie.
I really like that movie.
And then the guy who plays Matt, Alex Russell.
This was the first thing I saw him in.
Yeah, I don't. And now that I'm looking at his IMDb, I have seen other movies with him, but like, I don't remember him, I guess. He was also
in. He been in?
He was in the remake of Carrie with Chloe Grace Moretz. He played Billy Nolan, which I think is John Travolta's character.
I forgot he was in there.
Yeah, I forgot too. And then he was also in Unbroken, which was directed by Angelina Jolie, but I don't remember him in that movie either, to be honest with you. So
I haven't seen that. I know isn't he on a TV show? Like one of those cop
shows?
He's on SWAT. FBI?
SWAT.
Okay.
Yeah, which I've never watched. So I guess it's good. I'm glad he's still working. Because while I was watching this movie, I was like, what has this guy done? I know where Dane DeHaan is, although I haven't seen Dane DeHaan recently, but, he obviously went on to do Amazing Spider-Man 2, and he's done The Place Beyond the Pines and some good stuff.
Yeah, he was in Cure for Wellness, which I haven't seen.
Yeah,
I heard it wasn't great, but I still want to check it out.
And Michael B. Jordan has obviously done nothing.
Yeah. What is it?
Yeah, Michael B. Jordan? Yeah, I don't know. Never heard of him.
What was your reaction, your first reaction after watching it for the first time?
So after watching it for the first time, I remember thinking, so I probably felt this pretty much the same way I felt about it this time watching it, which is for most of the movie, I was like, this is pretty cool. I like the concept. It's pretty neat. And then the last 20 minutes, I was like, this is amazing. I was like, the last 20 minutes of the movie are really, really good. And I really, really enjoy the last, act, I guess you could say, of the movie. But as far as the first two acts, I think it's decent. It's pretty good. It's enjoyable. And it, I like how it builds. But, and it is a really interesting concept. I mean, I was thinking about how cool it would be to, one of the things, and I don't think I'd ever really thought about it before, although I guess Jean Grey kind of does it in the X-Men, but having telekinesis and being able to just lift yourself. I was like, that's pretty, smart to be able to fly that way. So I thought that was kind of cool. And I like how they're not just able to do that as soon as they discover whatever it is down in that cave.
Yeah, they have to learn how to do it.
Right. They start with little things first. Even stopping the baseball makes their nose bleed at first. And so I like how they explain how it's kind of a muscle that they're working out and getting stronger and stronger, which was cool.
I really liked it when I first saw it. I still really like it. Like I said, I was surprised at how good it was. But the thing that really resonates with me about it is Dane DeHaan.
Yeah.
He's really good in this movie, and I think his character is written very well, and I like that it's essentially like a villain origin story. Even though spoiler alert, he dies at the end, but if he hadn't died, I could see him going elsewhere and causing all kinds of havoc, and it was just it was really well written, and he was very, very well developed. He just plays him with such what's the word I'm looking for? It felt genuine.
Yeah, genuine. Yeah, that's a good word. The word that came to mind is when you hear in acting classes, there was truth to it. There was
there was truth to it. Yeah.
So yeah,
Dane DeHaan gets a lot of flack for his acting
Green
sometimes. Yeah. But in this movie, he was pretty good. He knew what to do.
I mean, Michael B. Jordan is a really strong actor too, but I think out of the three of them, his performance in this movie is the best. I think Michael B. Jordan is obviously very believable and genuine, I think, too, as Steve. But but Dane DeHaan, I think, really does do a magnificent job in this movie. And it's actually done pretty well. Sometimes when you have the abusive father, it can come across as
cliche.
A little bit, yeah, cliche or almost unbelievable because they're just so mean to their kid or something,
hokey.
Yeah. But this, I thought it actually worked out pretty well, and it did seem pretty believable. And that's the opening scene of the movie, is him turning on the camera and his father's banging on the door, telling him to unlock the door, and he's like, "You're drunk," So it was right away you kind of get a feeling for, number one, his home life, and then as soon as he gets to school, he's getting bullied, so you're like, oh man, this kid's got it rough, typically when you have a character like that, he also has no friends. And so I kind of liked how they almost kind of explained the reason that Matt is his friend is because he's also his cousin. And so, and even when in the beginning of the movie, especially because he's got the camera and everybody thinks the camera's creepy, when they go to the party, he's like, just don't film me all the time. Like, go over there or something. And he doesn't really want to hang out with him all that much, He wants to distance himself from him a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, and Matt does like explain why their relationship is the way it is. He says, you're hostile. But understandably so. His home life is trash,
right?
And
exactly.
his school life is not much better,
right?
But like he is very defensive when he speaks to people. So
yeah, that's true. He's got those walls built up,
Yeah,
and
he's just trying to protect himself. But
right.
It comes off as him, being an a-hole.
Right. And he's lived, and it's not surprising that he, wants wants to use these powers and it's not terribly surprising too that he kind of starts to see himself as this apex predator and people are beneath him because he's been powerless for so long and now suddenly he's got power. And so, it was a very believable story, honestly. Even though it deals with superpowers.
No, you're right. It's just that's essentially the core of the movie. What happens when you give power to the powerless?
Right.
I like how they don't really give an explanation for the source of their power. Like we know that they got it from this rock underground,
right?
But we don't know where this thing where this thing comes from.
Right.
We don't know
if it's alien or if it's
we don't know if it's or alien or man-made. Or, it was just there. They found it. They got powers, and then now it's gone. So that kind of explains why no one else has powers because it's not accessible anymore. So
right. Yeah, I like that too.
I like it. It's less is more.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It's kind of like, did you ever see Groundhog Day?
Yes, but it's not for a long time.
Well, it's kind of the same thing. There's absolutely no explanation for why he keeps waking up and seeing and experiencing the same day over and over again in Groundhog Day. Mm-hmm. And I think that's actually kind of genius. Like I feel like if they had, if he had bumped into somebody and they'd put a curse on him or something, it would have just lessened it. But for whatever reason, he just keeps experiencing. Yeah. Right. You don't need it. And I think it's great. And so I think it's kind of this similar thing with this movie. There's this mysterious thing. It gave him powers. No one knows where it came from. They don't really care because now they have powers. It's not needed. I don't think I never once was like, man, I really wish I knew where that rock came from. I want to know more about the rock.
The simplicity of the script is like, anyone could have written this. But I think where the movie shines is, the character development and the way Josh Trank directed it. It's just it's the simplicity of the script is almost like a sandbox that Josh Trank was playing in, and it really paid off in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I agree for sure. I am curious, I wonder if there were, because all three actors were very comfortable with each other. I did read in IMDb trivia that apparently Josh Trank had them live together for like 3 weeks before they started shooting, so that comfortability, whatever the word is,
comfort.
Well, just comfort. It was there between the actors,
or camaraderie.
Camaraderie, yeah. That's what I was going for, sure. And so they do feel like friends, you know what I mean, in the movie. And so part of me wonders if there was some improvisation or if it was all scripted, I don't know.
I'm sure there was some improvisation because like you said, the chemistry is really prominent. So I'm sure they improvised a little bit.
One of the notes I wrote is not a big deal at all, but right after they, well, it's not right after, but the first scene after they find the rock is them testing out their powers with the baseball. And at first, you don't really know what they're doing. He says Michael B. Jordan throws the ball and it hits the kid in the face. And but the note I wrote was the bruise on Matt's face is on the wrong side, because I rewound it and watched it again. He gets hit on the right side of the face, but then when they cut, his bruise is over here on the left side. I was like, continuity error there. But and so that bothered me a little bit. But it was just a nitpicky thing. I just was like, I got to write that down. Bruise is on the wrong side of the face. But I like how, again, you don't really quite, if you went into this movie blind, you'd be like, why did he just hit him in the face? And then the very next, shot is Matt with the ball, and Michael B. Jordan's going to try to catch it. And it looks like he throws it at the ground and bounces it off the ground into his face.
Yeah.
And then it cuts again, and Michael B. Jordan's like, all right, you're not going to get me this time. And then it looks like he throws it to the right, and then it boomerangs back and hits him right in the face. And I do love how he tenses up and then falls over it. I think that shot was pretty good. So at this point, you're kind of going, okay, wait, what? And then of course you see Dane DeHaan, he's able to stop the ball. And you're like, oh, this kid's got some powers.
I like, well, not like, but I guess I kind of like it, but they explain like the gap between the incident and then them throwing the ball as like the camera broke, so he had to get another camera.
Right.
I'd like that, but how was that? If this is found footage, how was that previous footage found?
Right.
If the camera broke.
Right. That's a good question. I do like how, because you're talking about how clean the movie looked. I feel like the beginning of the movie looks less clean because it's that other camera, and then it's an older camera, it does. And then when he gets the newer camera, it's better quality. Because it's also when we first meet Casey, he's still got that older camera, and when it cuts to her footage is really clean because she's got a nice whatever camera. So I thought that was kind of cool, interesting little. I don't know how many people noticed that really, but I noticed it and I thought it was kind of cool. What did you think about the flying scenes? Like when we first, when you first see Michael B. Jordan's character, Steve, is the first one to do it. And and I do actually really like that Matt has so much trouble with it. And, and Dane DeHaan's character, Andrew, he's just naturally good at it. And so he's able to kind of lift himself up. But then the next, it cuts, after we get a little joke of Matt with the camera trying it and you hear him fall, it cuts to them like flying through the clouds. And I do love that they actually have like coats and gloves on and stuff because of, it would be freezing up there.
Yeah.
But what did you think about that scene of them, I guess, playing football in the clouds and everything?
I like that scene. What I don't like about it, well, it's not that I don't like it. It's like the CGI is dated. Yeah. You could tell this was what year was this?
2012, 10 years ago.
2012.
Yep.
Okay, yeah, you could tell it was 2012. They looked a little bit cartoony.
Yeah,
when they were in the air, but the whole concept of the scene, like you said, them wearing winter clothes because it would be cold up there that high, and them playing football was fun because I mean they're teenagers. What else would you do?
Right. Well, that's what like my thought was watching it this time. I was like, why would you fly so high? I was like, you got to know there's so many planes in the sky. But then I was like, well, they're teenagers and they're just not thinking about it, and they're testing their limits and stuff. And so I feel like you would have heard that plane a lot sooner than you saw it. But I do like, I like that moment too. I don't know
because the planes traveled pretty fast.
Yeah, well, that's true too.
So maybe they wouldn't have heard it.
But I like how, Dane Andrew's like, what's that noise? And then all of a sudden it's just poof. And and then, I like, Steve is like, you saved my life. And he's like hugging on Andrew. And then in the background, you see Matt go, oh, like hit slam onto the ground. Oh, that's pretty good. But I actually, I mean, when the scene starts, you don't see anybody. You just see the clouds and the break in the clouds and you see the ground below. And it's that part I thought looked really, really cool. And and then when one person kind of comes into frame, watching them fly, it does look a little dated, but I really enjoy that scene a lot. I think it's really, really cool.
Yeah, for sure. When they first get their powers and they're trying to they're learning how to use it, and they're like just doing these pranks in stores and parking lots. It got me thinking, like, what would I do if I had telekinesis and could be able to move anything with my mind? I'd probably do the same thing. I'd probably just be moving random people's cars and
right
to
well,
different
especially if you're
watching them freak out.
Yeah, I mean, if you're testing out your abilities and you're like, can I move a car? I would probably do the same thing. But I was gonna say, I would definitely, as mean as this sounds, I would definitely do the prank with the teddy bear, and like the little kid was like, hello, little girl. And she's like, because it's just your levitating teddy bear or whatever. That was pretty funny. I like how,
probably, I would, my bad. I would probably make my kids' toys move.
Yes.
And like put on a show for them.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
I did like how when they move the car, they're laughing when the woman comes back. And I was like, she, in no way does she think they moved her car with their mind. She thinks they like broke into the car, drove it around, had a joyride, and parked it somewhere else.
Absolutely.
It's a pretty short movie. It's only 84 minutes, I believe, and that's with credits. So it's not a very long movie. It's pretty, and which is nice because, number one, I don't like a 2-hour found footage movie would probably feel too long. And number two, there's not really any fat in the movie. There's like nothing I would really cut out or anything, There's it feels pretty. The pacing is good and it feels pretty tight and everything.
Yeah. They definitely had some balls when they killed Michael B. Jordan, when they killed Steve.
Yeah, and actually that's the last note I wrote was I forgot that Steve died. Like I totally forgot about that.
Every time I watch the movie, I forget.
Really?
Because like they have so much chemistry, and like you're so invested in their friendship that even though I've seen this movie probably 10 times, it still surprises me when he gets struck by lightning.
Yeah, and that's one thing I guess I still don't. I've only seen the movie twice, and I know when I was watching that scene, I remember thinking, how in the world did Steve find him? Because he's up in the sky, like it's like trying to find somebody in the middle of the ocean almost. It's just like how. But then they kind of mentions like we're kind of connected, like you're in my head. I heard.
Yeah.
But then, how does Dane DeHaan's character move lightning? I guess with his mind to strike Steve. Because telekinesis is basically can move things with his mind. So
they also have their invulnerability, because you remember the scene with the fork,
right? He's got that, like, and it's basically, he says, kind of like imagining a force field around you, essentially. But yeah, that was one thing I just it was a cool scene, but I wasn't sure how Andrew was able to like summon lightning, basically.
I think that they can do more than what we are actually seeing. They just don't know it yet, and the reason why Dane DeHaan's character can do it is because he's the strongest one out of the three of them. Yeah. So they probably have the potential to do it. They just haven't tapped into it yet.
Okay. That'd be kind of interesting. So, like, if his character had lived, who knows what he would have been actually capable of? Because Matt does say, like, how was he struck by lightning in a, when there was no lightning? I forget how he words it, but like, basically, there was no lightning reported in the storm or whatever, and he was struck by lightning. Before Steve's death, we have the talent show. What did you think about the talent show?
Oh yeah, I did take notes on that. Well, just a brief note. I really did like the talent show. That's also something that I would do.
Yeah, for sure.
If I had telekinesis, I'd definitely be putting on magic tricks for people. Showing off I thought it was great. I thought it was funny. I thought it was a good moment for Dane DeHaan's character. But at the same time, like people only really like him because he did that that trick.
They don't like him for him, yeah.
Yeah, they don't like him for him. They just like him for what he can do. But it was a a good brief moment to just see him like genuinely being happy in front of a lot of people.
Yeah.
The note that I took was he should have done the moonwalk across the
he should have.
tightrope.
Yes, he should. I thought he was going to make himself levitate. That's what most like magicians would do, right? Make himself levitate, and everybody'd go, "Oh!" And then he'd like, even if it's just like a couple feet off the ground, and then he like sets himself back down. But he didn't do that. But I did like. You're right. He should have moonwalked along the tightrope. That would have been awesome.
Yeah, they probably didn't have him levitate because that would have been a little too out there for that particular scene. Yeah,
probably. But it was a good scene too. Like you said, I like how it's a good moment for Andrew. It's kind of a high moment for him, and then of course he's got, because gets knocked off his pedestal pretty fast, especially when his dad says he like watches the footage and calls him a loser, and he says he's like, you think these people like you or whatever, and you're like, that's rough.
Like, how could you watch the footage and that's the first thing that you think?
Right. You don't think,
like, yo,
how did you do that?
Like, how are you doing this?
Right. Yeah.
You gotta be a pretty terrible person to just overlook the fact that your son has superpowers.
Right. And call him a loser. Yeah.
And call him a loser.
Yep.
The scene at the party. The chick with the hair.
Yeah.
That is actually Dane DeHaan's girlfriend.
Yeah, his wife now. Yeah.
Yeah, his wife now. Yeah.
Yeah.
But at the time they were dating.
They were dating.
And yeah.
I noticed that on IMDb that they were married, and I thought, oh wow. Mm-hmm. And it said they'd been married since 2012, so I guess they were dating when this movie came out. So pretty cool.
Yeah.
Another low point for Dane DeHaan's character. He's the popular guy at the party. Attractive girl hits on him, and he ends up throwing up all over. And then
it doesn't get any more cringy than that. That reminds me of like when you're watching like a 90s sitcom and the character does something really embarrassing,
right?
And you feel embarrassed for him.
Yeah. Yep.
It's like, ugh. But soon after that, Dane DeHaan's character takes a turn for the worse. His mother dies, and
he goes to pick up her medication, and it's $750, and of course he doesn't have that. And I actually really liked what he did. He dressed up in his dad's old firefighting gear, which I wonder if they actually would let you keep that stuff when you retire. But anyway, he dresses up in his old firefighting gear, and he goes to rob like the drug dealers that are on his corner or something. And I like that scene a lot. And he doesn't get enough money from them, so then he has to go rob like a convenience store. Mm-hmm. And as
like the convenience store scene.
Yeah. And when he's leaving, the convenience store owner or clerk or whatever pulls out like a shotgun and goes after him, and Andrew, he just reacts and kind of pulls the gun away from him, and it ends up shooting like a propane tank or something. I don't know exactly what it was, and it just causes this huge explosion. And I noticed in the I think it's supposed to be like security footage, both people, Dane DeHaan's character and the like convenience store owner guy, both bodies are on fire in that in that scene. And so he's wearing the firefighter's gear, so I figured he was actually be mostly okay, but he's all bandaged up when you see him in the hospital. I assume the other guy died. They don't ever mention anything about that guy, but he was closer to the...
Yeah, if Dane DeHaan was wearing a firefighter suit and he's all bandaged up, then the other dude has to be
he was toast.
Cajun.
Yeah. And that hospital scene, that's the one time where it works, but it almost goes into hokiness because the dad is blaming the mother's death on Andrew, and maybe he would actually do that. I don't know, but it just seemed weird to me that he was like, "It's all your fault," and was all mad. But that the way that scene ends.
That makes sense to me
Okay.
because the Dane DeHaan is like never home, but I mean,
Yeah.
can you blame him? Look who his father is.
Right.
So,
Right.
of course he would say, you weren't there, you out lollygagging with your friends instead of helping me take care of your mom. I don't know how effective his dad was at taking care of his
Right.
mother. Probably not very good
Probably
at
not.
that.
Yeah.
He's probably too drunk to do it, but
Right.
from his point of view, I can understand why he would say that. He's wrong, but
Right.
I
Yeah,
get it.
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, you might be right. But I was gonna say I love the way that scene ends, where
Yeah.
he like kind of goes to hit him, and Dane DeHaan just like wakes up and grabs his arm, and then immediately it cut again. I like these moments where it kind of cuts to the security footage, and you see the wall of the hospital just gets to get blown out, and then it cuts pretty quickly after that, and so that's the moment that from that point to the rest of the movie, that's where the movie just gets awesome, and that's the scene. That's kind of the moment where you go, whoa. like
yeah,
oh, he's angry now.
you see how powerful he is.
Right.
Before that, when he's in the junkyard and he's like levitating and he has and
crushes the car with his hand.
the car, that is probably my favorite shot of the movie, because like that one shot just encompasses what the movie is about.
Right.
The powerless gaining power.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
it's a wonderful shot.
So then after he blows out the wall of the hospital, that ends up being on the news because people assume it was a bomb. Somebody, it was like a terrorist attack or something.
Yeah.
And Adam's face, his nose just starts like gushing blood, and he's like, "Something's wrong with Andrew. Something's wrong with Andrew." And so, what did I say? Adam? I meant Matt. Is that Alex? I don't know where I got Adam from. Anyway, Matt, his nose starts bleeding, and he's like, "Something's wrong with Andrew." And so, of course, Casey films this whole thing.
It's because why wouldn't she?
Right, exactly. Chasing him out to the car and going, "I'm going to go with you," and she. Yeah, films every moment of it, but he knows that it's not terrorists. He knows that it's Andrew, and I love when when they get to the hospital, you see Andrew like fly out of the hospital room holding onto his dad, But then the best part of that scene, in my opinion, is when he drops him and you see Matt fly up to catch him. I was like, that
was great.
Yeah, that was awesome. And then the whole, then from then on, it's just basically just a big fight scene, basically between Andrew and Matt.
Yeah, it gets real comic booky at that point.
It does, which I love
in a good way.
Yeah, exactly. And actually, I know this came out first, but I couldn't help but compare it to Man of Steel at the very end. Because Matt is going, "Don't make me do this." He's like, "No. Don't make me do this." And then, of course, he does, because if he lets Andrew keep going, he's just going to destroy everyone, destroy the whole city, destroy everybody living in the, there. And so he has no choice but to, and I love that statue has like a spear or something. And I just love how he just pulls that spear down and it goes right through him, nails him to the ground. But anyway, yeah, it was very Man of Steel moment, no choice.
Yeah, for sure.
If you love these people.
And he just takes off because, obviously he just killed someone.
Right. Yeah. The police show up and I like it. Yeah. He just flies off. And of course I skipped over a lot of the fight scene. Like I love when Matt gets hit by the butt, Andrew like throws a bus at him in the air because there's however many stories high in the sky at that point, and then all of a sudden a bus just comes out of nowhere and hits Matt.
Yeah.
But I had kind of forgotten about the invincibility thing, about the barrier around them, because I remember thinking like when he gets hit by the bus and then like they fall from the sky and land in the middle of the road and they're in like kind of a crater. I was like, how are they not dead? I remember thinking
that's how they got that barrier.
Yeah.
That
so I forgot they explained that
or whatever.
Do they have to be like concentrating on that barrier, or is it just something that
I would
happens.
assume that because they've gotten more comfortable with it, it's like breathing. You don't have to like
Don't have
think
to really
about
think about it.
breathing.
It's
You
just
just
there.
do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would make sense. And I guess because either Dane DeHaan wasn't paying attention because he was focused on other things, or Matt was just was strong enough. He was able to puncture that barrier with the spear at the end and kill Andrew.
That's probably what it was. He a combination of those things. Like Matt had tapped into the potential of his power, and then Andrew wasn't concentrating because he wasn't thinking about what was behind him.
Right.
So,
just what was in front of him.
Yeah. So it was probably a combination of those things.
Yeah. I do like how too, we were talking about how Andrew was the strongest and he had like the natural talent for it. I do like how Matt struggled at everything. He had to really practice at it, He didn't just pick everything up. Like in the Legos, which I don't love the Lego scene because it looks kind of cheesy, but the Legos, he has trouble putting two together, whereas Andrew he built the Space Needle.
He built a Space Needle.
But even, the flying, Steve and Andrew were pretty good at it, and he's struggling with it. And so I like that. And so, I think that's very possible that he had just not tapped into that power yet. And he was put into a position at the end where he had to,
Yeah.
So this kind of goes with the very, very end of the movie. When the guys are talking about taking a trip and flying to Maui, and then Andrew says he wants to go to Tibet. And I was like, I would 100% do the same thing.
Yeah,
if I could.
Absolutely.
If I knew how to fly all of a sudden, I'd be going, wherever all the time. Yeah, exactly. You never have to pay for a flight again.
How long would that take though? Like how fast can they fly?
I don't know. They never established that really. I mean, you see them flying pretty quickly at the end of the movie, but it's not jet airliner fast. I don't think.
I was about to say they can't fly as fast as a jet.
Right. So I don't know. Like, how long would it take you to fly to Tibet? They don't say. We just know that Matt does it at the end. Yeah. But Matt also has like the big backpack on and stuff. So maybe it does take a while. So maybe he flies as far as he can go in a day, camps out, and then flies as far as he can go. Yeah. So
I would assume that they can go faster than a car, but not as fast as a plane.
Right. Yeah. So flying from like East Coast to West Coast would still maybe take you 3 or 4 days, but it'd be free. Except for, I guess, if you need to pay for hotels, but I mean, you don't have to pay for a flight.
Yeah, but you got to fly with all your luggage on your back. True. Like, who wants to do that?
Yeah, that's true. No, that wouldn't work.
You're not going to fly very far with however long.
Well, you just levitate that with your mind. You levitate your luggage and fly it all together.
I don't want to think that hard. That sounds
that sounds complicated. A lot of
concentration.
It really does.
And what if you're flying too fast and you all the bugs and birds and stuff hit your face?
That's true. Maybe that's another reason why they went up so high that they did. Less chances of running into birds or bugs or something being that high. But yeah, that's a good point. You'd have to you'd have to wear like a motorcycle helmet.
Yeah, you would have to. So that way, absolutely.
I mean, also the wind in your eyes would be really hard. So you'd have to wear like a motorcycle helmet just to catch all the bugs and everything. That's gross.
I assume that if they can do all of that, their physiology would change.
I would hope so.
So like in the X-Men comics, like Angel, he has wings, but he also is like he has less body mass, so he's very light, and he has like a huge lung capacity, so he can breathe thin air.
Right.
So it's not just wings; like his whole physiology is different. So I would assume that it's the same for them.
Right. I would hope so. That'd be an interesting idea to explore if this ever got a sequel. Not that I want this to have a sequel, but like if we followed Matt's character.
It was supposed to have a sequel. It was supposed to be an all-female cast.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
That'd have been kind of cool.
I mean, I don't really think this movie should have a sequel.
No, I don't
it's
either.
fine on its own.
It's good out. Yeah, it's exactly.
Yeah.
I also read an IMDb trivia because Max Landis was accused by a number of women of assault or whatever, and and I read in the IMDb trivia that Josh Trank said he 100% believed it because he banned Max Landis from set, and he said he hadn't talked to him since 2012. So they obviously had a big falling out. Max Landis, I mean, I don't know him personally. I remember the first time I saw Max Landis, he had a video on YouTube, and it was about the death of Superman, and he just came across so kind of cocky and arrogant that I was immediately like, I don't like this guy. And
what other movies has he done?
He wrote Bright, which was directed by David Ayer, the Will Smith fantasy Netflix set in LA movie. Yeah. He also wrote Jesse Eisenberg and Kristen Stewart, American Ultra, I think it was called, which I never saw. And he's done something else, but I forget what. He did a TV show. I think it was on BBC, called Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency, which is based on books written by Douglas Adams, who's the same guy that wrote Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Okay.
Elijah Wood was on that show, but other than that, yeah, I can't remember what else he's done. He's the son of John Landis, the director of American Werewolf in London, and I think the Blues Brothers.
Yes,
and a number of other things.
Oh,
but yeah, apparently he's. I mean, apparently he's not a great person, and so he's not done much since then. I think he kind of got outed during the Me Too movement, and has had probably trouble finding work since then.
Yeah.
So if there had been a sequel, I don't think Max Landis would have been a part of it.
No, definitely not.
But like you said, I don't think this movie needs it because I think it works really well as a standalone. I don't need to know what happens to Matt in the future and stuff like that. I think this is Andrew's story, and Andrew dies. We don't need a sequel.
Yeah.
So,
but I mean, all three of their arcs are complete.
Right. Exactly.
You don't need to know the details of where Matt is and what he's doing.
Or the
his
Rock
arc
or
is
anything
complete.
like that. Yeah. Exactly. The all-female cast would have been kind of interesting, but not if it was basically just the three same characters, just with
the same movie, just with female characters.
And I'm sure they would have done something differently, but it's just I don't know. I like this movie as it is. We don't need an unnecessary sequel or anything.
Agreed.
All right, Stu. How would you rate Chronicle?
Really good movie. One of the most surprising movies that I've seen. While it's not perfect, it is solid, very entertaining, right up my wheelhouse when it comes to like the concept. I like it a lot, and I'm going to give it 4 weird rocks out of 5.
Nice. Yeah, my when I got done watching it today, my initial reaction was 3.5, and I went to Letterboxd to put in my rating and saw that I had already given it a rating, and I had given it 3.5. And so I thought, okay, my opinion, I guess, has not really changed. I think talking about it almost makes me want to bump it up to 4, but I think I'm going to stick with my gut reaction, which was to give it 3.5. So I'm going to give it 3.5 floating cameras out of 5.
Nice.
Well, we'd love to know what you think about Chronicle. You can always let us know at cinemaheroes.com. You can leave us a comment on Instagram or tweet at us on Twitter. Both handles are at Cinema Heroes. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can always leave a comment below. Please do. And if you are watching it on YouTube, give this video a thumbs up. Subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. But anyway, I think that about wraps it up for this episode of Cinema Heroes. I'm Justin Speck.
Jay Stu.
As always, thanks for listening. Thanks for subscribing.